All right, so the first place we're going into is LucidChart. And what I'm going to do is simply just input the exact questions that were asked so that we can then branch out and figure out exactly what KPIs and measures we got to create. So the first up is hires in less than 180 days. Next up, we're going to have losses in less than 180 days. And then next up is going to be workforce composition. All right, so this is how I mind map, right? So I list out every single question that I may want to answer. You can also do it in a different fashion to where it's based upon the data that you already have. But if it's scenario driven like this and you're creating a ad hoc dashboard, but it's something that you probably want to retain over time, this could be helpful as well. So what I do for this instance is I'm going to list out all the questions as I did. And then now we're going to create that spider web of how many different data points are tied to each one, because we want to provide that depth, but also ensure that we answer the question that was provided to us. And we don't want to oversaturate it too much, because we can always build with a lot of personnel data. There's so much that we can do. But with this scenario specifically, what we want to do is just ensure that we provide the data that's parent to those questions. But it's always good to have the data accessible, meaning if you're ingesting the data, you have retirement plans, you have medical plans, all those kinds of things as well. It's good to have that data readily available, but not present it unless it's truly asked or it's parent to the scenario. But for this one, we're going to keep it simple, but later down the road, we'll also build out laterally so that we can bring in all the other data points and then create an even more robust product. All right, so the first one I'm going to do, and I'm going to make a branch over here. I'm going to change the shape. I'm going to make it a circle just so it looks a little bit different. And then this one is going to be a KPI of new hires less than 180 days. And what I'll do is I'll actually make this font a little bit smaller too. And the next one I'll do is a by name roster. So we probably want a by name roster. So I'll actually move this out of the way as well. By name. Next up, we'll create a total workforce after hires. And we'll do this month over month. Do hires by gender. We need percentages. So percent of filled versus vacant. And then we're going to do gaps in teams. And what I'll do is I'll change this color just so we know it's distinct. So we have the center point here for hires less than 180 days. We're going to do total workforce after the hires. So the month over month. This also ties into the losses too, right? So some of these are going to be repetitive because they're interconnected. We have percent of filled versus vacant. So how many positions we have currently filled, and then how many positions we have vacant, which is going to total to how many positions were actually authorized. We have by name, so associating the numbers to a person. We have hires by gender, so how many are actually being hired month over month based upon the role and the gender as well. We have gaps in teams, so how many gaps are there in teams? And then we're not going to dive in too much into the consequence of those gaps, meaning are they going to be able to accomplish those sprints in time based upon that team? We're just going to overall highlight the gap. And then the KPI that we have here as well, which is going to be all of these are really going to be KPIs for the most part, are going to be the new hires less than 180 days. And that kind of ties into this one as well. All right, so let's work on the losses less than 180 days. So it's kind of going to be the same thing, but just reversed, right? We still want to map all of them out. So we're going to say KPI losses less than 180. We're going to say by name. This one is going to be attrition reason. So we want to know exactly why they're leaving. We're going to do by gender as well. We're going to do month over month as well. We're going to do percent filled versus vacant. And then once again, we're going to do gaps in teams. Let's move this over here. All right, so I had to reformat this one just a little bit so you can see everything for hires, less than 180 days, losses here now, and all the different KPIs to the left. And then we have workforce composition. The one thing I do like about this application, though, is that you can simply click on a dot here and then associate it to another shape, and you could just draw that connection just like that. So super user-friendly. A lot of different dynamic things you can do here. All right, so the first KPI we want to start with is going to be net change, and that's going to be hires and losses. The next one we want to do is month over month. That's going to be total and percentage. Then total by team / gender. We're actually going to include branch in here as well. Then we're going to do job, type, distribution, then skills / roles at risk. And I'll delete this extra one as well. And this is what we have for all 3 questions that were provided. This is how I mind map. So I essentially take every single question that was provided to me, or this is just historical knowledge that you may have on a subject as well, and you're trying to determine what attributes and values you need to look at, and then also potentially bring in as well. So all of these are associated to a certain type of data point. So now the next thing we have to do is identify, okay, what is the data that we're looking at so that we can bring it in. We're not going to dive into, okay, is this the most accurate data that we're bringing in? Simply because it's static and it's manufactured here. So it's not anything tied to a real company, because it's just sample data. And that's something that you have to do within your organization tied to data quality. What we have here is a bunch of different fragmented tables that we'll actually access here momentarily, tied to all of these questions. But just to recap, so I have a hires less than 180 days. So we essentially want to figure out how many people are coming in, what are their jobs, what are their roles, what branches are they coming into, what gender are they, and then month over month, what does that look like over time? We want to do the same thing for losses. Additional data point here is going to be attrition and reason. So it's trying to figure out, are they retiring? Is there another job offer? Things like that, right? Because those are additional data points that we could provide to maybe try to keep those people in-house within the company as well. And then the workforce composition is taking all of those 2 previous questions and then rolling them into one matrix. So what they look like month over month by branch, gender, over time, and then those roles as well. And then the job type distribution. So what does it look like across your workforce, meaning overall, what's going to be the impact to that organization if they don't hire or lose certain people. And now we can take this even a step further. So we want to identify what is a recommendation throughout this entire mind mapping sequence as we're bringing the data in, as we're populating it, propagating it onto the dashboard. So one thing to think about would be, how would we influence more hires to a specific location? Maybe it's not a desirable location. So how could we go about that? Through other locations and essentially distributing that workload for that PI sprint that they're on, or would it be something else? So those are things that are creative ways that you can also identify this problem set and then come to reasonable recommendations. All right, so the next step is going to be step 3, which is going to be a quick tour of Excel. And we're going to take all the data, look at it, analyze it briefly, wavetop, and determine, do we have all the data that we need to support this mind mapping?